Now, I want to start with your assessment on the current state of international crisis management. Are we on the right track out of the crisis, or have we once again missed opportunities? And let me start by quoting Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the IMF, who said back in January that 2012 should be a year of healing. What she meant by that was that after 2011, a year that was characterized by the lack of a collective determination to reach a cooperative solution, a year of false starts and half measures, 2012 should be a year of opportunity of our making, a year of healing. Now that we're almost halfway through 2012, where do we stand today? Is there reason to be optimistic, or could we easily slide into a 1930s moment? Maybe we should begin with the politicians. And Prime Minister Blair, you were one of my heroes when you were in office. That first question goes to you. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. Try to answer this briefly. I think to state the obvious, things are still immensely fragile. I think we live in what I would call an era of uniquely low predictability. But I think the one basic point I would like to make is this. The key is to have coordinated policies globally that promote growth, and to balance that with policies, particularly within the Eurozone, that promote fundamental structural reform. In other words, I think the biggest risk for us, certainly in Europe at the moment, is that people are provided with a choice between, on the one hand, austerity and reform, and on the other hand, growth but no reform. What we require, in my view, are macro policies that keep our economies moving and are coordinated and deal with some of these fundamental imbalances in the global system. And for us in Europe, there is no alternative but to fundamental structural reform in areas like welfare, public services, pensions, labour market, and so on. I think if we have that combination of strong macro growth and micro reform, we've got the best chance of coming out of this well.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister Prodi, you're from Italy. You maybe have a different perspective here. What is your assessment on crisis management?
I completely agree, but there is a problem of timing that structural reforms are indispensable, but they take time. And I don't think we have time. This is the only, because if the rate of interest go out of any control, like in Greece, you don't find any possibility of reforms because you devastate your finance in the first round. So we need the long-term structural reform, as Toni told, but immediately we need a truce, let's say, an agreement to calm the international market, and this is the problem. Now, there is some light in the sense that, because Obama is worried about that, the United States are worried. China is worried because in April the rate of growth is coming up. So all the world is worried, and in Europe you have a new climate, and so I do hope that a truce can be signed, but we have to do it now, before the summit of June summit in Europe.
Prime Minister Kok, do you agree with that? What's your Dutch perspective here?
Well, it's not so easy to look at this from a national perspective. I think in general, looking at it from Europe, I understand the argument made by Tony Blair, international coordinated structural growth, and domestically, that means in this case European-wise only for reforms. I think that's too simple, to be frank. Because in Europe too, I don't want to monopolize the discussion now to talk about only Europe, but in Europe too, it's absolutely necessary, on one hand, to stick to the policy of austerity and reform, absolute necessity, but at the same time, at the European level, some selective new initiatives in order to contribute at least to higher structural growth are absolutely necessary. I mean, youth unemployment, unemployment in general, but youth unemployment in certain member states, and even member states who are doing better, is rising to an unacceptable limit. And so many people, the ILO talks about a lost generation. So I fully understand as a former Prime Minister and former Minister of Finance that you first have to earn the money before you spend it, and debts are far too high. But some selective growth initiatives at the European level are necessary, not necessarily in conflict with the reforms that are necessary at the same time.